Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Heather Thompson, and I'm delighted to be your host for the Business Catalyst Supports Program. And today I am joined with our guest, Nancy Suranyi, who is one of the co-owners of Namao Auto and RV Repair. And I'm so thankful for you to take the time and join us with this conversation today. I think, there's so much mystery around businesses, especially family ones. So I'm excited to just dive in today and talk about, as much as I'm allowed to ask you about when it comes to a family business. But maybe just to start off, can you tell us a little bit about the business and also your involvement in it and how you came to be one of the co-owners?
Sure. So we're, as you mentioned, family owned and operated. It's myself and two of my brothers, Mike and Roger, with it. We purchased the business off of my parents. My dad essentially one day came home to my mom and said that he quit his job and he was starting his own business. And that was back in 1972. Wow. And they built a little 3-bay shop in the back.
What job did he quit?
He was an automotive service technician.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Yeah,
okay.
He had actually immigrated to Canada from Hungary and was one of the first to graduate out of the apprenticeship program at NAIT. At that time it was called motor mechanic with it, but he was a technician with it. So he has always been a big dreamer and big goals with it. So that day he decided that he was going to open up his own shop. So they did that out on their acreage in Carbondale in Sturgeon County and opened a little 3-bay shop that grew. He did well with it, and he wanted to really service the agricultural base in Sturgeon County as well as the local business. So then ended up building an 18,000 square foot shop over by Sturgeon Composite High School. So 53 years in business. And then early 2000s was when we started to go into the succession planning, and when my parents started to, move out of the business and we purchased it from them. So since that time, it's been myself and my 3 brothers.
Okay. So there's four kids in your family?
2 brothers. Sorry.
Two brothers.
Yeah,
okay, so
2
there's
brothers.
3 of you.
There's 4 kids in the family.
4 kids. Okay.
3 of us are in the business.
75%.
75% are in the business, which again, when we're talking about succession and family businesses, is interesting and can be complicated sometimes as well.
But that's I want to pause on that for a second, because especially, as we're looking at this aging population, one of the big things we hear about succession planning is that there isn't any. And we have so many businesses that are going to no one. So yes, it's complicated, but it's really cool to see that there's that much interest to keep between you and your brothers to keep this business. I'm curious to know, so in the early 2000s, maybe if you could take us through, was there something that you wanted to do with the business? Was there something that you're like, oh, we have this dream for it? Or was it more just I want to keep it going, I want to keep it in the family?
I think, so that's a great question. So looking back to that time, and just to let you know, at one point or another, all 4 of us were in the business and worked in the business. And being in a small town, in a small community, that's a big part of your identity as an organization with it. My dad's dream always was that, his kids would take over and would take it on to the next generation. And all of us working in it kind of had goals towards that as well with it. Ironically enough, what really started to spur, because I think, like you said, there isn't a plan for most family businesses or small businesses with it.
Big time.
And a lot of times when we look at succession, there's a natural succession and sometimes there's an emergency succession. And you want to kind of have a plan in place for both. So what's ironic about it is kind of like we're doing here today, is kind of doing these webinars and talking about this to help other businesses. That's where we got started in what was the Catalyst. Back then, there wasn't the internet, so there weren't any webinars or ChatGPT you could go to, but what there was an ad in the local paper that had a seminar, and it was mostly directed at agricultural families with it and how you move the farm on to the next generation. But there was a piece of it about small businesses. So all of us trucked down there to go see what this was about, and it was so enlightening. And what we walked away with was, I think, a little bit of fear. Because I think my parents had an idea of what they wanted and what this could look like, but the realization that there wasn't a set plan in place and all of the intricacies that go into it and the details and the things that you have to think about with succession, because you have the ownership transfer piece of it. but there's also the leadership, and there's also the operational. And those are three separate entities that you have to look at when you're starting to talk about succession and how to delve into that. The seminar that we went to, one of the big things they talked about was what happens in a lot of agricultural families, because, and my parents were no different with it, the small businesses tend not to have pension plans or, you know, how the business does and when that sells is really what they go into retirement with. So how do you move this on to the next generation and allow them to have enough to, you know, to really see the fruits of their labor and to live out a good life and, you know, and live their dreams with it. And it talked about, you know, a lot of people will go to the banks and take out a loan and do it traditionally that way. But they started to get into other options and other avenues and talked really about who to get in line with professionally. So, you know, corporate tax lawyers, the accountants, get everybody in the room at once and look at what your options are and how you could make it work best for all parties involved.
What were some of the, I'm gonna call them like red flags, green flags. What are some of those things that you're like, oh, I'm so excited, this was such a success, we implemented this, versus what were some of those challenges that you're like, I did not see that coming and that was really hard?
Well, I think it was all a little bit overwhelming. Not our wheelhouse with it for wet, and most companies are the same. This isn't something that's done regularly with it. Some of the excitement was about, and I think it's like any generation with it. Me and my brothers come from different skill sets with it. I went to school for business management with it. They went through apprenticeship and journeymanship with it. And when you come out of it, because it's a different time, there's different technologies, there's different ideas, there's different processes that you see. So I think you're very excited to get into it, but you still have to respect the legacy. And what, you know, those that came before you did. And how do you, and that's the tricky part, is in the beginning, how do you meld the two together with it? So some of the things we were excited to get involved with was, there was a focus group within our industry that was super helpful. A lot of mentors came from that, and a lot of different ideas and processes that my father would have never even thought or been open to as to what it was. One of the funny stories I can share with you is, because it is a process. This takes time, years. It's not all of a sudden one day you decide, okay, I'm retiring and we're going to move on with it. So, you know, even though the paperwork had been done and we were rolling towards that, my father was still in the business actively and still, you know, coming in. And the one day we decided that we were sending him on a really long parts run. And as soon as he left, we grabbed the staff and quickly started to relocate shelving units in the parts room and completely redesigned the parts room within the span of a couple of hours.
Oh, wow.
Just to, you know, it seems like a little thing, but it's one of those that, you know, you do to kind of claim that ownership and to try something different eventually with it. After a few months, one day he just walked in and handed the keys to my brother and said, you can take the office and I'm done with it.
Wow.
Now he wasn't. Still today, if you come in there, you will see him.
I was going to ask you that. I was going to ask you that.
You will see him quite often coming in. One of the other things that we had changed over the years was when they had run it, they used to do, you know, 2 15-minute coffee breaks, 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and then your lunch was at half an hour and stuff. And we just found that the staff preferred to do a whole hour at lunch and, you know, and take micro breaks as needed with it. But my father still to this day, if he shows up, it's usually around 10 o'clock because he's just, you know, accustomed that way. That's coffee break, and can't understand why we're not on coffee with it. So so I think it's working together. So respecting the legacy and the mentorship with it, but still bringing in your own ideas. And when I look back at the business today is nothing like it was 40 years ago, and quite frankly, it's nothing like it was 10 years ago when we even own it. It's a constant evolution with it.
What are the main things that you've seen change?
I'm going to say our operations.
Okay.
So when mom and dad started the business with it, it was the original name of the company. It was actually T&D Service and Storage. T for Ted is my father, D for Diana. And then they did service and storage. There was a storage lot on the property with it. And the bulk of what they would have worked on and repaired on would have been agricultural and small cars and trucks. Today, the operation is probably 80% RVs. So we're, you know, we still have that small car and light truck repair with it, but it's a much smaller fragment of what the business used to be. So, and it's changed over the years. We've manufactured grain boxes, we did auto body in there alongside. So we've always kind of been moving and ebbing and flowing
Right.
with what the business needs and what you're looking at towards the horizon as changes come. And I think that's one of the things that's helped us be successful is be open to what else you can do.
I'm also hearing that there's like a lot of just community trust, right? So when you have a company that's been around for 50 plus years, and I think, you know, having the legacy of it being still family owned and operated, curious to know, like, do you sense that? Do you sense that people are like, you have legacy customers
Yeah.
and you also have people being like, I just inherently I'm excited to work with you because I just know the quality, the service, all those things are
Yeah.
just going to be a little bit more buttoned up?
Absolutely. Community, word of mouth,
Yeah.
all of that ties into it. We have customers that remember me when I was a baby. The business is older than me, and
Right.
they remember when I was young, and
Right.
would be brought to the shop. So there's definitely a piece of that, and then also I think the reputation that you build with it.
Yes.
And it is that trust. Recently, we've had a couple businesses that have retired out in the same industry. And one of the neat things is we were one of the shops that they were recommending their customers go to. And it's nice to see their customers come in and they're very sad that they can't go to the other, but hearing them talk about it. And that's what we want to,
Yeah.
is that our customers to talk. They take ownership of the businesses sometimes with it.
Yeah.
There's a pride in being able to say, you're my repair shop. This is where I go.
Yep. Oh, for sure. And I think that's especially in the industry that you're in, trust is huge. And I think it's something that gets overlooked because especially, and this is happening in a lot of different industries where we're seeing larger organizations kind of take over, absorb, merge. We're seeing a lot of that.
Yeah.
So I'm curious to know from your perspective, like you're trying to merge and manage. You have your family values. You have, like you said, you're respecting the traditions and the past. What are you maybe give us some of those red flags of some of those challenges that you're seeing in terms of this is harder than I thought it was going to be, or this is holding us back in a way, anything like that?
I think owning a small business has changed over the years.
Yeah.
It's not the same as it was when my father first started a business. Some of the challenges, are, I'm going to say, expectations. It's going to be people have a much broader voice now.
Yep.
Online with it. I think the same thing too. You can YouTube and you can Google anything as to what it is, and that makes it harder, but it also makes it easier too. Because a big piece of our business has always been educating the customer.
Right.
So now we can use those tools as well when they come in to show them, what we're saying and still have that expertise with it to be able to do it. The flip side is sometimes people are a little bit more closed off to listening to what, our expertise is and whatnot with it. So I think that it flows both ways. But, the big thing is, if you own a small business, it's not for the faint of heart.
No.
You're going to stumble.
Yep.
Some of your decisions are going to be spot on and prove very fruitful, and some of them aren't. When you're in a family business, though, and you've got multiple partners and different things to think about, what has worked for us is we trust each other.
Yep.
And we may not always agree, but when a decision is made, we back it. Wholeheartedly, even if it wasn't the choice we want to make. And if it is something that doesn't work out, it's not a throw it in the other person's face.
Very important.
Yep. You have to have that trust and you have to have that communication and work together to be able to say, okay, let's pivot. Where do we go?
If you could go back in time, what would you have done differently? What's the advice you give?
The advice I give is find your people.
Okay.
Find your village with it. There's a lot of resources out there that are super helpful. And in a family succession, you're young. I mean, we were all nervous and didn't know what to do. It's one thing to go to school for business. It's another thing for someone to hand it to you and say, here you go, operate it.
Right.
So take your time with it and really work through it. Succession isn't really about retirement. It's about continuity. So how can we pass
Yep.
this on to the next team that's coming in? You know, thinking about whether it's your clients, the operation, your staff,
Yeah.
you know, your partners that are going into this, because we were young and didn't know any better with it. The professionals that we sought were super helpful as far as, you know, shareholders agreements and, you know, capital gains and all of the logistics that go in with it. But the
Yep.
next step is, okay, how do we do this mentorship? How do we do the transition out? And the big thing is to keep the communication lines open and to talk to
Yep.
each other. What is everybody's expectations? What are the parameters? One thing that we've been really good at is the business stays in the business.
One of the things as you're saying this that I maybe just want to highlight, because I don't think people actually are aware of how rare it is for a family business to have successful succession. Because there's that saying, what is it, like takes one generation to build it, 2 generations to use it, and 3 generations to destroy it.
Yes,
And that's a saying for a very
it
real
is.
reason. And so as you're talking about these steps and the methodical sort of processes that you have in place, it makes a lot of sense, and there's a lot of respect for that. And I'm curious to know, as we're talking about, you know, the future and how important and how rare the succession is, what are you hoping for in the future?
I'm hoping definitely that it will continue
Mhm.
to the third generation with it. We do have some third generation um, family members that are in the business. So, you know, the goal is for the legacy to continue with it. It would be very cool to see it
Mhm.
50 years from now.
Oh yeah.
And you want the next line to do better than you did
Yeah.
with it. There is no doubt my parents had the hardest part of this, and it's a true gift that they gave us, because we wouldn't be where we are today without their sacrifices. I mean, when they started this, when they built the building that we're in right now, it completed right at the end of the 70s and into the early 80s when the economy bottomed out. Very scary.
Yeah.
They went through some difficult times. They endured, you know, the 13 and 18% interest rates on the
Right.
mortgages. And, you know, they really did the heavy lifting so that when we walked into it,
Yep.
it was a little bit different. We had it easier with it.
Yep.
But
You had crazy respect.
oh, 100%. And we took it to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we
Yep.
took it into the branding. We took it into really honing in on ours. I had mentioned before that we have different skill sets with it.
Yeah.
The one thing that works is that, you know, we trust each other's skill set. I've
Yeah.
never had to worry a day in my life about if the snow's going to get moved to move the units around,
Right.
or if the work's getting done correctly, or how to, you know, change something out on a vehicle. That's not my skill set with
Right.
it. And they've never had to worry about, oh, did the staff get paid?
Right.
You know, what's a source deduction?
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
we've had each other.
Yep.
And without the three of us, there's no way that the business would be where it is today with it.
Yeah.
And surviving a lot of the tough times, because it is up and down, whether it's a global pandemic,
Yes.
a fallout in the economy, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you know, tariffs, all of these are real problems that businesses face, and small businesses sometimes have a little bit of, you know, a tougher time with it, because again, it's not that wheelhouse, and we don't have the departments to
Yep.
deal with it. So
Yep.
one thing that's worked for us is having those three different skill sets to use off of each other and to trust it.
Trust. Perfectly said. Yeah. Because I find like that's where you even see this in organizations, whether they're family run or not, is the lack of clarity and the lack of trust. Is just like, it's waste time. It's not productive. It's all the things that you actually can't afford to mess around with when you're as lean as you are. So I guess maybe as we're thinking a lot about right now in a kind of a macroeconomic picture, we're talking a lot about workforce, we're talking a lot about productivity, we're talking a lot of things that are really front in mind right now for business owners.
Mm-hmm.
What are you hoping for that your business will see in the future? Is it massive expansion? Is it using AI? Like, is there something where you're just like, oh, we didn't get to this part with what we did, but maybe in the next 50 years, this happens?
I think the best way to answer that is to say, we don't know what's coming.
Yep.
But I want them to embrace it, and I'd like to see the business grow and lean into it like we did when we started. Computers weren't really a thing with it. Same thing with branding and stuff. You didn't do your own branding. That wasn't. So there's a lot that we've leaned into that we would have never imagined. So I think for the next piece of the journey with it, for them to build out, expansion isn't always, necessarily what you want for it. Sometimes honing in on it and being a little bit more boutique and specialized is the answer with it. So I want whoever takes this on next to just take it to that next level and lean into it.
Yeah, I love that. And that definition of what does success look like, right? Because we often think just from our culture and our society that when we think success, we think growth for the sake of growth. And we don't actually hone in on profit margin and revenue and those sorts of things. So, I mean,
and lifestyle.
And lifestyle.
That's a big thing too. Do you enjoy what you do? When you go and open those doors in the morning, is it something that fulfills you, that provides a service to your community, and that provides a living for those that are on your team? And sometimes that's, worth a little bit more than
big time
than the profit margin.
That's actually that's a fun social media thing that we're seeing. People are doing like rich because I get to walk to work. Like there's like those like non-financial rich things that we need to take into consideration when we're choosing this. So I guess kind of on that note, what would your advice be to a business that is a family business and they don't have the luxury or the choice of having the next generation take over? What is your advice for doing the best that they can do for succession planning?
I think, that's going to depend on what they want their legacy to be with it. I think for them to define where they want it to go, and again lean into their industry, the resources available. There's a lot of really good resources and organizations, whether it is a chamber or an association or something that kind of helps with that, to know and define what your business is. And then it becomes a very personal decision as to if they don't have a succession plan with it. Sometimes it's seen within employees. I mean, a lot of times that's where you first go to is do I have somebody within this organization that would be interested in taking it on and moving it to the next level. Sometimes businesses don't want the name to be associated with it and just want to kind of wind it down and leave it where it's at with it. So I think that's a personal decision, but the advice I would have is just to start planning for it now. Again, you should always have, a bit of a plan in the back of your mind for what that natural succession is and what the emergency and know to have it somewhere written, not just in your head, but
like my will.
Have you communicated it to the people, and is there a plan in place? Because it is complicated.
What are some of those business value sets, those constant, sort of maybe operating values that you have as a family that you have found to be tremendously successful?
Personalized customer service.
Perfect.
Number one with it, no doubt. So as I mentioned, we're primarily RV repair with it. And what's unique about us is we do both the mechanical and the coach side of it. So when you think of a motorhome, for example, you're going to have the brakes, the tires, exhaust, all of that you need essentially a medium duty technician. Now, we always did repairs on that side of it, but then you also have the house portion, which is your furnace, roofs, appliances, all of that with it. And that's a different trade. That's RV service technician. And we do both under one house with it. So it's a one-stop. We didn't realize that the RV dealers couldn't do the automotive side. And we knew that the automotive couldn't do the two. So we kind of fell into it a little bit. So we came at it from automotive, which is very customer service driven as to what it is. So we took a lot of what we learned there and applied it to that business. So we don't sell parts over counter and we don't sell RVs. So our focus is solely service and repair. And you need to know where you stand within that market. So the example I always give is a hamburger. You could want a hamburger and you can go to McDonald's and pay, $6 for a hamburger, or you could go to the Keg or Lux or something like that, and you could spend easily 28, 30.
Yeah.
The presentation's going to be different.
Yeah.
How it's served,
Yeah.
what you get with it, how it tastes even so much,
Vibe.
the vibe,
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
And the price is going to
Yeah.
range as to
Yeah.
what it is. At the end of the day, you're still having a hamburger with it. So who is the client that's walking through the door, and what do they want?
Right.
Are they looking for something more towards a Keg, or are they looking for something with the McDonald's?
Right.
And to that, can you meet their expectations? You're not going to go
Right.
through a McDonald's drive-through and expect cloth napkins and silverware to
No.
come through.
Right.
But you're also not expecting the same price that you would get somewhere else. So one of the things that has worked so well for us is really working with the clients at that first initial contact. Are we the right fit for you?
Right.
Because there's other options in the market, and there's nothing wrong with the other options.
Yep.
But we want to make sure that we get you to where you're best going to be served.
Totally.
So customer service, and then following through on that. We were one of the first shops in the area to adopt digital inspections.
Oh,
so
cool.
we send pictures
Yeah.
to the clients with it if we're doing a roof inspection or something like that, so that they can actually see what the technician's talking about on the estimates.
Okay.
If we're doing winter work for a client, there's a whole file like you would see in a doctor's office that comes out that has, a ton of details in it
Right.
about, do they want to come and view it, in the winter when the job's complete, what's in the unit with it, do they have the propane tanks, the batteries out? Like there's a whole process that they go through in a little welcome packet that they
Right.
get, so that they know what the expectations are with it. So we're really pushing for that higher customer service experience.
Very cool. That's and I think that like you said, that customization and the expectation management. Oh my gosh, I feel like that should be an MBA. Like expectations.
Well, you know what? It helps. So all
Yeah.
of our service advisors on the front desk, they actually have a book there, and it has all of the other local vendors in our
Oh,
industry.
very cool.
So, they ask a couple questions right off the bat.
Yep.
And if it's something we can't help them with, they give the name and number of who they can go to so that they can get it. Hopefully we can help them. That's obviously what we're looking for first, but we recognize that that's not always where the fit is with it. So let's get them someplace that they can fit a little bit better.
It's so interesting when we're looking at the range of skills that it takes for businesses to be successful now, and adaptability. One of the major markers that we're seeing that is generating profits is the ability to that emotional intelligence and that connection with people. It's so critically important. Would you say that when you have to hire and when you're looking to expand your workforce, would you say, like, in terms of the skill sets that you're looking for, would you say like that connection to the customers?
Yes.
Okay.
Emotional intelligence is huge, because it's being able to read somebody. What is their body language saying? What is their response? Am I really hearing and understanding what they're looking for? So having employees that get that and capture that. We work very much, whether it's our back or our front end, with it. How can we help each other? How can we do what's needed in the situation? If you see something, say something with it.
It's interesting, especially in your world, when you talk about education. If I came in for an oil change and you're like, your tires are about to fall, like there's a safety element too. And that would never occur to me. Like I would have no idea. Like you could make up something that doesn't even exist and I wouldn't even know about it. But it's so interesting. You're right, to have that connection.
Well, when you give them the education and you can explain it and send it to them, then they can make educated decisions.
Totally.
And that's the whole thing. One of the things we participate in, we're part of the Recreational Vehicle Dealers Association, and every year they put on an RV learning weekend. And it's a weekend that people go, typically, it's people that are new to the RVing lifestyle, and have new trailers, and they go out and they camp for the weekend, and a whole mess of vendors such as us put on seminars. So they can come to our seminars. So a lot of times ours is on suspension and ride control, or it may be on maintenance. There's a whole slew of different, seminars that we do. But they just come and sit with us for 90 minutes. We bring in samples and we educate them on why this is important, how
Okay.
this works, what to look for, what should you be doing, what is the maintenance,
Right.
and it's done from a very neutral standpoint. You're not there
Not selling.
promoting, we're not
Yeah.
there promoting, come to Namao Automotive and RV,
Yeah.
and we're going to fix this for you. It's really, here's what you need to know.
Yeah.
And then afterwards come up and chat with us and ask the questions. Same
Yeah.
things. We participate in the Edmonton RV show. We always have a booth there with it.
Can you tell us a little bit about what the labor force looks like? Because you're talking about these amazing services, and having the right people is so important.
It's key.
How is that for your organization right now in your business?
I think like a lot of businesses in Alberta, trades are challenging currently. I'm lucky enough that I hold a position on the Alberta Board of Skilled Trades. So trades is a passion of mine.
Yeah.
I have the utmost respect for people that go through the apprenticeship system and into the trades and stuff. And there's so much opportunity for them there right now with it. Whether it's through, grants or just the way the program works in itself, that, you have this mentorship with it. You're supported, through employment insurance when you actually go to school. Right now I have a first year in RV that's down at SAIT. She's coming back in a week and she'll have completed her first, and next week I have another second year that's going in for the automotive program. So
cool.
Under our roof we run 3 different trades. So we have automotive service technician, heavy equipment technician, and then RV service technician. And we just happen to be located next door to SturgeonCounty.ca High School, which is a big promoter of the trade. So a lot of our staff have come out of the school over the years with it. One of the things we're very big on is starting at the beginning. So we love to, hire somebody that we can kind of train and mentor up, and you get a sense of pride as you see them going through that and training and going into what their vocation is going to end up being. But as I said, trades are challenging. We have a lot of the workforce that's retiring out. I know my generation, there was a bigger push to go into things such as nursing and teaching and stuff, and then computers came on. And a lot of times the trades are overlooked, but they shouldn't be, because they're lifelong careers. And they're
not getting replaced by AI.
No, they're not going to get replaced by AI. And just the opportunity, particularly in Red Seal. Once you get that Red Seal ticket, you have an opportunity to move anywhere, across Canada with what you have. And we're starting to see more and more people get into triple tickets, and double tickets that, they might get their plumbing and their steam fitting, or their automotive service technician and their RV service technician. And that's important with it. And then they can make decisions. Do I want to be, at a managerial level, an ownership level, or do I just want to become, master skilled at what I do with it? So I would really like to see more parents and educators and counselors and stuff working with the local businesses and industry and stuff to try and see how can we bring more into that. Because a lot of times, it's even just, I mentioned before that you got to enjoy what you do. And a lot of people, there's pride. Like when you talk to, we have a lot of, the youth ambassadors that come into our board meetings that talk to us, and they're from all the different trades, and to listen to them talk, or if you ever get an opportunity to go to a Skills Canada competition, phenomenal.
Very cool.
With it. It's very cool to watch them at this young level and be so invested and excited about it. And they're the future with it. And as you said, those jobs can't be replaced by AI. So
but how they're going to use AI with their skill set? I can't. We don't even know. We just don't even know what's coming.
It opens up a lot, even for us. I mean, we're using it to a certain extent within the business too. No, there's a lot of opportunities out there, but for those that like to work with their hands, and it's not even always working with your hands. It's it really is about just doing what your passion is. And more, there's barriers being removed. For how to get into the trades. A lot has changed in there as to how to have access to it. So it's an exciting time for skilled trades in the province and in the country with it. And I hope to see it growing more and seeing, the younger generation really dive into it
Yeah.
and go with it. But critical to our business with it.
Yeah.
You know, we absolutely need the skill set in the back, the hands-on, to be able to do it and to do a good job with it. And then, you know, still that education on our front-end staff, you know, just as important with it. Are they able to explain that to the clients? Are they able to explain what the clients need to the back end?
To look for the translator.
100% with it. So hiring the right people
Mm-hmm.
and having the right team is crucial.
So important. No, I think that's perfectly well said. If is there something, Nancy, I haven't asked you yet? Is there anything that we didn't get to talk about?
I don't think so. I think we covered quite a bit. It's hard to wrap it up. Just like succession takes so many years, so does learning about it.
Yep.
It's a process. It's overwhelming, but it's also exciting.
Yeah.
And what you can do with it. I think to do it all over again, I would still, you know, dive in and do it 100%. And it wasn't something that I wanted at that time. You know, if I'm being honest.
Interesting. Okay.
I had swore, you know, you grew up with your parents working together and owning a business and seeing the struggles and everything else. And I swore I was never going to get into the family business. And, you know, I knew I wanted to be in business, but somewhere downtown in a high rise doing something.
Oh, I feel like every 21-year-old says that.
Yeah. The vision I had, not working in a automotive shop on the side of a highway. That wasn't really what my envisionment was, you know, in my early 20s.
Right.
But still went into it and seized the opportunity and made it my own.
Thank goodness, hey.
You know, love my role and love what I do, and being part of it. You know, during the pandemic, being part of a family business, I can't tell you how much that helped us because we still got to see each other. You know, we were working together through that. We, you know, it was a different experience for us. So it has so many advantages, you know, as your parents start to get older and start to age, you're able, if you have that ownership, to get away and to be able to, you know, support them and to do things. And family has always been at the core of our values for our business. So whether it's us or our employees, we always, you know, truly not just preach, but walk that family comes first. So yes, if there's, you know, childcare issues or something like that with it, we understand the importance of that and, you know, band around it to see what can we do to make this easier and to make this work.
It sounds so simple. The amount of companies that don't do things like that is 100% to their detriment. Yeah.
And sometimes, you know, when you're smaller, you're more agile.
Yeah.
I think it works too
both,
and against with it. If I lose 2 employees out for a day because they're sick or whatever, that has a much harder impact, on our operations as to an organization that has 200 employees. But at the same time too, we're able to also understand why does the employee need to be away or what's going on that how can we support you individually? That's easier to do when you've got, you know, under 15 for an employment as opposed to 200. So I think that's part of it. There's, you know, there's 2 sides to it.
Yeah. And I think when we look at the data, the overwhelming response is that people want to work for people who care about them. And I think everything you just said is a lot around retention, attraction, all those sorts of things that are really important.
Yeah, I do think sometimes though, our staff has to endure hearing too much about
I
family and how we grew up and whatnot with it. A lot of times at the toolbox and safety meetings and stuff, it goes into stories and whatnot with it. But I think I've had a lot of people that have worked for us over the years that say that they appreciate it and they feel like part of the family with it.
Absolutely.
That it's, you know, they enjoy that part of it, and we're able to laugh at each other, you know, that we play jokes on each other as siblings and do things and have those stories and share and, you know, and take it as well with it. And I think that's what creates that culture in it.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. This was fascinating, and I can't wait to hear what Generation 3 is going to look like.
Awesome. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you.